Yeah.
Brandon, your first podcast ever. So say hi to the camera. You're saying
Hey,
hi. We online now. That's
hey,
it.
it's my first one. It's
But
great.
don't be shy. Don't be shy.
Happy to be here.
So Brandon, your very first podcast. Welcome on the show. Do you want to tell the audience? We always start with this. Like, what's your business and what do you do in it?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I'm excited for you to be the first podcast. So Dr. Johnny's our company. I'm the CEO of Dr. Johnny's. And basically what Dr. Johnny's is a fashionable, health and wellness, brand focusing on compression socks, diabetic socks, some foot cream, and then some other products. And really sort of our ethos is making products that make people feel good. And so, my sister is my business partner. Been in the business in this category business for about 15 years now. This company is about 2 years old, just under 18 months, I think. Uh, but yeah, we sell all over North America and again make products that help people and make them feel great.
And just so people can picture your company, don't give us like an exact figure, but just a ballpark number of where you guys at in terms of turnover and just how many people you guys have in the company.
Yeah, seven figures in revenue, couple million dollars. We have, I think, 15 people in the company now, which is pretty awesome. So, and you and I have chatted in the past, and
Mm.
a lot of our success has come as because of you. You've helped us a lot. It's been great.
Oh, thank
So,
you.
so thank
Thank
you.
you. Well, I think it's your product that's amazing. And then the way you've actually, well, I've got a lot of respect for you because we're going to get into this, but you've actually rebuilt this whole business from the ground up 2 years ago after having reached around, you were above 10 figures, weren't you,
We
initially?
were getting close. Yeah, we're just under,
Yeah,
but we're very close.
just
Yeah.
under, that's right. And then you lost everything.
Yep.
And then you rebuilt everything from the ground up to where you are right now,
Yeah.
over 2 million
Yeah.
in two
So,
years.
yeah, exactly. In less than 2 years, in 18 months.
All right.
It's the entrepreneurial spirit. So yeah, I mean, just
That's
to kind of
it.
touch
But
on that,
keep
I mean,
going.
totally. Our old company did very well until, pandemic came in and threw everything out, and we basically um, learned some very expensive lessons and
Yeah.
we ultimately lost the company. Which was too bad, but we learned a ton of stuff and took the entrepreneurial spirit and restarted 18 months ago and
Yeah.
um, took all the lessons that we learned and what we should do and what we shouldn't do and just rebuilt it, which has been great.
All right, so let's take people into that journey because I think this is where the core lesson is. And I think people won't particularly appreciate the depths of it if we don't explain to them like where you came from and how you lost the company and how you rebuilt it. Because I think the crux of it is right here. But if we just say, hey, we've made it simple, keep it simple, yeah, that's an easy thing. But let's just make sure we illustrate it so that people can really get the juice out of it.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
So you started the company, if I remember. You went to over at Pudu when you went to a show in China and you saw some product and you saw. No, that was your dad. No, you started with the compression socks,
With
isn't
the
it?
compression socks, yeah, 2012. My father is a general surgeon, as you know,
Yes.
and basically is a big vein clinic. And for many years, he'd asked people to wear compression socks as part of their treatment. And they looked at him and said, those are the ugliest. Some around here as an example, but some of the ugliest, most mundane, brutal looking socks. And so
So do you want
basically,
to? Sorry, 1 second. Do you want to
yeah,
explain to people what is exactly a compression socks so
yeah,
that
for
people
sure.
understand pretty much? Yeah,
And this is a global thing. So it's something that, doesn't matter where you live as long as you, stand
have
up and,
legs.
yeah, have legs, basically, it can be beneficial to you. So if you think about, your circulatory system in your body, so obviously your heart and lungs are up here, blood goes from here and then it gets oxygenated and basically goes down to your muscles. Your muscles use
Yeah,
that oxygen and then we need to bring that blood back up to the heart to do it all again.
yeah,
One of the challenges we have, I'm sitting right now. I'm not sure if you're standing or sitting, but blood is being pulled down by gravity. And right now, for instance, myself, I'm sitting, and my muscles in my legs are not contracting. They're not doing anything. So the blood has no way of being brought back up. Again, to be reoxygenated. And so the only way that it's coming back up right now is actually me breathing causes negative pressure and blood comes back up. So what that does, it puts pressure on the veins in your lower leg, and causes things like swelling, which we talked about this morning in those videos. If you ever pull your sock down at the end of the day and see indentations from your sock,
let me
that is
see.
swelling. I'm sure you have it right now.
A little
Uh,
bit, yeah, a little
yeah,
bit.
so that's swelling, and so that's what we call venous disease. That's the first sign towards venous disease, and then things like varicose veins start, and spider veins, and those those bulgy veins you see in people's legs. Anyways, compression socks, what they do is they're tight. There's basically a sock that's a knee-high sock. Some are thigh-high, some are pantyhose. You see those as well, but most of ours are knee-highs. They come just below the knee. And what they do is they're tighter at the ankle. And then as they come up, they gradually decrease in pressure. And so what they're doing is they're pushing blood deeper and then acting as that muscle pump to help push it back up against gravity. So, and traditionally it's been something where, they had beige, and if you got lucky, they had black. And if you got really lucky, you'd have navy. And so, it was almost
Grandmother, let's call it what it is. Grandmother stuff,
that's
isn't it?
exactly what
Yeah.
it is, and the fabrics were terrible and the marketing was terrible. And so essentially if you were wearing them, I could basically point my finger at you and say, Julian, you're sick. You have a problem. That's what they made you feel like. And so basically my father had asked people to wear compression socks for many years. And they looked at him and said, we're not going to wear them. He said, please go wear them for 10 days as part of a treatment. Come back and see me. And inevitably one of three things would happen. They either wouldn't be wearing the sock, they'd be begging you to take it off, or they'd have this fun, fashionable sock over top. And so basically he said to them, they have huge medical benefits. What can we do to make them better? And we basically addressed all those things and started from there. And that was the original company when we started.
Because it's your mom, correct me if I'm wrong, who designed the socks
She
initially.
does. She designed the socks. Yep, initially. Yep. So we
Yes.
took that, and then
Yes.
myself, I traveled the world and found suppliers and sourced the softest cotton that we could find, and we basically put the company together and grew it up. And so that was about 2012. And then yeah, at first it was my mom, my sister. Then we added some other people, started to add some people into the company, all here in Vancouver for the most part.
Yeah.
Then we added some sales reps, and then we were actually on a sourcing trip when we were kind of looking for other products that we could add in 2015, and we found this product when we were in China that was very, very just soft and fuzzy, and they were these fuzzy socks. And so we actually built another brand out of that that kind of went gangbusters and took off. And so took us from, I think we were doing, about $1.5 million with the compression socks or so, took us to, all the big millions that we are doing. And then basically what happened was in the pandemic, then we added all these people into the company. Our overhead costs started to go up, and things like warehouse costs and all those things all started to spiral up and stuff like that. But our human capital was massive. $100,000 a month in human capital, and we were spending a
Uh,
ton of money. Now, not all of those folks were doing what they were supposed to be doing. In our defense, we weren't laser focused on where we were going either. We had challenges, oftentimes knowing who we were and what we were, and I think that led down. If you don't have a clear sort of focus on what you are as a company, the people below you also don't know. But we also had people that just weren't, doing the right jobs. Talk about the right people in the right seats.
mhm.
And so we learned very quickly, and we didn't learn very quickly. We basically had all these people there, and then so that was going, and there was enough revenue coming in that we were okay. And then the pandemic happened, and that threw all sorts of stuff into a tailspin. Supply chains got eaten up, costs went up, but we still had all these overhead costs, and essentially that led to us going into our line of credit with our bank, and then our bank turned around and pulled our funding and basically pushed the company in receivership. And then the company was bought by another group out from under us, and that was the end of 23, early 24. And then so we lost the company that we'd spent 10 years building. But what we didn't lose is the lessons that we learned along the way, which was a
Uh-uh.
big part of it. So, um, a focus, huge amount. We needed focus. We needed the right people in the right seats. We needed to know what we were doing, and we needed to really, again, like I said with before on a couple minutes ago, is obviously you were instrumental in that and helping us to put the right people in the right seats and really come up with a focused approach to what we're doing in the future now. And that's sort of what we've done. We've kept it very lean, very focused, very day one mentality of like how do we
Yeah.
how do we grow this company in a smart way, and everything we do now is like, do we need that? Is that something that's going to move us to where we're trying to go? So big lessons
Because
learned.
because when I met you, you had already the two brands, and you had already a number of problem compound that if I sum up well, the way I saw your business when we met, it was a lot of complexity in people, complexity in like the amount of product line you had, complexity in the amount of stock you had, and therefore money frozen,
Correct.
and everything sort of compounded against you. Like, do you want to start talking about the people element? Like, I remember like the hours long meetings that resulted into nothing, and that sort of side. It was quite it was painful, isn't it?
It was I have PTSD still from it. I mean, it's something that, we had meetings for meetings just to meet. We had meetings. We had meetings scheduled. We had um again, we weren't laser focused on where we were going. So without having that laser focus on where you're going, you had all these people just sort of around, and like this person did this job sort of, this person did this job sort of, this person did this, and ultimately then we all sit at a table or sit on a virtual meeting, and nothing would end up coming from it. There's no actionables out of it that actually happen. um and I think at one point we had 22 folks in the office, of which we probably needed about 4 or 5. um the rest of it was just a lot of things. Now, granted, hindsight's always much easier. You can always look back and understand it much easier in the, from the past. But we didn't know what we didn't know at the time, and so that we didn't adopt tools. Like, there's a ton of tools now that we've been able to adopt that have helped us to stay lean. But I think that the number one thing that I've noticed is that we didn't have a direct and very clear focus on what we were doing, which is something that
Yes.
we do have now. We've dialed that dead on to what we're doing. And if it doesn't, even now, like, we talk about new product lines and stuff, and I'll go back to talking about the past in a minute, but we talked about a new product line that we had, and we tested it a little bit, and we said, does this get us to where we're trying to go with that? I have a goal over here. And the answer is no. And so these are why we're going to spend time on it. It's not getting us there. It's going to drive us, small amounts of revenue. Why are we doing it? Let's spend the time on what we need to spend it on, and have the people doing it. And so everywhere we've now set up, compensation, and everything is all based on how does that move us to the goal that we're trying to do. And if we look back, I mean, again, we didn't have that. People were salaries were out of whack. They were crazy.
Yeah.
They weren't compensated based on performance. There was just a lot of people around, and that was an issue, and stuff like that. So it was there was many things that kind of went into it. And then you layer on, with that not having a laser focus in the past, you layer on, then you talk about product and stuff. We had one product line where we had 80 flavors of it. When I mean flavors, colors, and 80 of them. And anybody that's in business knows that 80% of your business comes from 20% of your stuff. And you can't get out of that. Maybe it's 25% or whatever. But we didn't need 80 flavors. We could have cut it down to 15 flavors and had the same revenue for the most part, right? Um, we also had customers that were, late paying and all, difficult to deal with and stuff like that. And then you layer on, probably the fourth or fifth complexity there, which was the inventory. And, we had way too much inventory. At that time, what we were doing is buying inventory to go sell, which is different than what we're doing now, which is keeping it much tighter. We're super lean on the inventory we have, and things that are not churning, we're just not buying, and stuff. So we're much tighter, and all of those things. For instance, now we have a weekly meeting every 7 days, inventory review. Never had that before. And when you look at that, all of those things compare. If you only have an inventory meeting once every 4 months or 5 months or 6 months, you're not tight on your inventory. And that's now where we have a weekly meeting to look at it and see what we're doing with it, and what we need to move, and things like that. So much tighter now.
Do you want to go? Do you want to go through the vision about and then why you guys were not clear on the actual vision of the company? Because
Yeah,
I think this a lot of your problems stem from this. Well, stemmed from this. Um,
yeah. I think you're right. If we boil down, I think a lot of it was. I think that we were. I've thought about it a lot, actually, of why, and what that looked like. Even to the fact of what at first we were trying to figure out who our avatar was. Who are we selling to? Who was our customer? But we weren't clear on what the company was, so we weren't clear on who that was either. So, we tried to narrow it down to a demographic and a gender and things like that. And then we're like, but what about this and what about that? Um, I think when we were first getting started, our initial idea was that we'd have a compression stock company that we would sell in our, wholesale channels. Wholesale. And one of the things that we had was an issue with getting enough turnover to keep the company going because those things take time, long lead to really get those things going. And so then when you're seeing that it's going to be a long lead and you need to find, you're scratching and clawing on ways to find other revenue streams, you sort of start to deviate on where your vision is, right? And so again, we started with the compression socks. Um, we knew how to go and try and get B2B revenue. We did that. I mean, we got within a couple of years of that company, we got the company to about 1 million, probably within 4 years of that company, 3 years that company got that company to about $1 million in wholesale revenue. Um, which was fine, not great margins, but was fine. It was turning money and starting to become a little bit profitable and stuff like that. But then we were trying to figure out how do we do the next step. And so, obviously direct consumer is another thing. We weren't great at that. We weren't well versed in it. So we didn't really go down that path. And so for me, the easiest thing to do was go and find wider product lines, which is where that fuzzy sock business kind of came in. Um, and then that took us on a journey that we weren't, that we were hopeful for, but weren't really expecting with some, great media behind it and stuff like that, that really grew the business up much quicker. And so what we did, instead of sort of having that vision of like, let's stay, hold on and be organized, we added people in because we thought that was the next logical thing to do. Again, never having done this before, we were a lot of greenness kind of coming into this. And so now you have a compression stock business over here that is probably the smarter business, but it's not as quick to grow. It's growing, but it's not as quick to grow. And then you have this one that rockets, but is much more of like the wants based business, right? So now you're split on what that vision is. Are we a compression stock health and wellness business, or are we a lifestyle brand? And the lifestyle brand, that one's
Mm,
bigger. So now you're squirreling, and you have all these people in the office that are, they see the fun of the lifestyle brand. They don't see the uh, steadiness of the health and wellness brand, right? And we didn't really know. We thought this was just going to keep going in sort of that exponential growth pattern. And then again, when COVID happened, things went sideways and stuff. And so really the lack of focus came from us trying to figure out what was going to catch, and we just weren't clear on that, and we didn't know enough about the business to sort of make that clear statement and clear sort of affirmation of what we were doing. And so I think that led to a compounding thing of like not clear vision,
yeah.
not clear product line, not clear brand focus, too much inventory, wrong people, all the way down the.
Because then, if I remember correctly, when you had the fuzzy socks business, you then guys created a layer of multiple product within that, which became more and more sort of lifestyle inspired products. Like you had, I remember at some points, you had some pajama that were quite expensive, very high end products. So you had some sweatshirts, you had some hats, you had a lot of, and so there was a mix, if I remember, of accessories, which is
Yeah,
within that brand where your high players like your fuzzy socks and some hat and some gloves and sort of this, but you wanted to also add some very highly lifestyle product, almost like a fashion brand. And that never quite worked for you guys. And you started getting completely into the compression socks, the accessories, and then the fashion. And at
yeah.
that point, you had like these inventories that started piling up on stuff that were not moving, and
Millions of dollars of inventory
that's it.
tied up.
That's it.
It was interesting because what we thought when we took the compression socks to market, the the brand and the product sold. When we took the
Yes.
original slipper socks to market, people couldn't get enough of it. We just thought that that was the next logical thing to bring out another line of things like, widen the breadth, so in theory, you have something that people are consuming. Let's widen the breadth, and then we can just sell there as well. Meanwhile, we didn't understand that other category. We didn't understand the sales channels. We didn't have those built in, and they weren't quite as easy to adopt is what we were kind of looking at, right? Before. And so again, that all of those things compounded. And then we also thought, well, let's order, we have minimums to order, we'll have places to sell them. And it just didn't happen. and again, not knowing who our customer um, was a
Do you
problem.
think? Do you think within, because you had the business was a family business, as it was you, your sister, your mum, and in the background, your dad. I don't think your dad was really present. It was more like in the background. And if I remember correctly, your mom and your sister were very keen to embark, obviously, on the fashion stuff. And you were more like keen on the accessories and the sort of like gifting
Yeah,
um,
I
stuff. And I always felt when I worked with you guys, there was a bit of a, you know, a disagree, not a disagreement, because you guys never disagreed, and but there was aspiration from part of the company to become this lifestyle fashion brand, and an aspiration from the other side of the company, which was more, or again, let's just make money with what sells.
Yeah, I I think that's right to definitely to a degree. I thought the clothing side was interesting, but I was always apprehensive just on how much things cost. Like it's
Yes.
expensive stuff, and so you're even now when we're looking at like SKU numbers and inventory, different types of product that we're having, it's all like and we have some family friends that were big into the clothing business, and they always said it's not what you sell, it's what you don't sell, and that always stuck with me for many years. And so that was a situation we got into, and it was something that there was excitement around it. I think there was also not only my mom, my sister, but I think some other people in the company too were excited
Yes.
about getting into that realm. Um, Again, we didn't understand it. We didn't. We were also a bit I think we were a bit naive in the sense of listening to too many people as well. Um, there was a period of time where we had sales reps that were always coming to us and what's new? What's new? And we would get caught up in that. If we don't give them the new, they won't sell our product. And from my perspective now is that sell what you have, do a good job of it. We're bringing new, but we're going to bring it in a smart way of doing it. Um, that makes sense. It's going to be fiscally responsible and stuff like that. And that's something again comes back to that inventory control and proper metrics of that is like we're gonna bring in products that we know. We're gonna bring in products that we know can sell and go sell them. And we've
Mm-mm.
now found people in today's world that can go do that. And are very again, I think it comes back to that focus. All of it all kind of funnels up to that focus of who we are and what we are.
The focus and the vision. Because I've always, we've never talked about this the way I'm going to phrase it here, but I've always felt, and I've seen this with many other people actually, but my feeling with your business has always been when you started becoming too big, um, that and I'm going to make a parallel that some people might not like, but I passionately believe there is an element of that. You know, obesity often is actually a problem in the mind more than actually physical. I know there's some people who have a physical illness and stuff. I'm not denying this, but there's a fraction. A lot of it is here, and you guys are definitely the vision problem translated into symptoms around like basically obesity, stock, people, waste, craziness.
Yeah, we called it fat. I mean, there's too much fat on the company, and it
Yeah,
was it was it was hidden behind success for a while. That was the interesting part. So when you're having success and there's money flowing and it's profitable, none of it matters. You can do this or that or whatever or try this. When that success stops, you need to be very careful that you have enough backing that you can get through that next time because like everything in the world, it kind of goes like this a little bit. And so
yeah, yeah.
wanting to make sure, we spoke previously today even about just different, growth engines and stuff like that. And one of the things that I sit now and look at is like, and it's all done very, very conservatively and stuff, but where do our growth engines sit? And try to figure out again when those if you think of a vision, where do those growth engines sit under that vision, and making sure that we're laser focused on what that looks like now versus in the past it was like, all right, well, let's try this. Okay, well, now we need to redo the website because we'll do that, and then it's just all over the place of like things, and now we're focused in on what that looks
Because
like,
your
and so
vision is clear nowadays, and
very
it's
clear. it's
yeah.
it's it's probably one of the biggest things that people need to dig into is getting that vision clear because without it, you're scrolling left and right, and stuff. But it also cuts the fat. Just by itself, it cuts the fat because the question is, does it take you to that goal, no, then it's not happening. And I sit here with this on my desk all day long, but win or no deal. Everything I do now comes back to win or no deal, right? And
Yeah.
that deal comes back to, is it a win for that, or I should say the win comes back to, is it a win for that vision, right? And that's a big part of it.
Do you think also, and we'll probably, it's the last question I'll ask about the vision piece, but do you think, um, sort of, because I know your parent took a step back from the business, even to an extent your sister, uh, at least a bit. Do you think, because I know a lot of people have family businesses, and you guys, it was hard at some point. I remember, like it was getting to a point where it was putting a strain on your family relationship. Do you think having fewer people in the sort of family uh, decision making helped to clarify that vision as well?
For sure. You need a leader. I don't care what you're
Yeah,
doing, you need a leader. You look at a military, there's a leader. You look at anything, there's a leader. There needs to be a CEO. There needs to be a leader. This is something you brought to me. You brought to us actually. This is a big thing. When we first started working with you years ago, I remember this is one of the things. Somebody needs to be the
first thing we
leader.
did. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because
There
I remember
needs
your
to
family meetings were very messy and people were frustrated and arguing, and there was a lot of pull in all directions. And I remember we did a lot of work, you, your mom, and your sister, to just, who is going to be the guy, and they decided for you to be. And at that point, straight away, things started to be in motion. The stuff we were doing started having speed straight
Yep.
away. Yeah.
100. I remember we had a first call with the entire team, and we highlighted all these things we're bringing in. This is when we were trying to figure out the old company. Um, and I remember, I think we had 3 people quit that day after that call because they weren't happy with where it was going. But
Yeah.
that was really going to be the start of efficiencies and focus. And so, obviously it didn't work out with that company, but yeah, I think to answer your question, you need one leader, and I don't care what it is, family business, not family business, somebody needs to be the leader, and that person is in charge of getting that vision clear and stuff. And if it's not, you're gonna have problems
Yes.
at some point.
And that transitioned us nicely to your employees and your team, because that was a big part of your problems actually. But I remember, and again, family business or people with multiple business partners and stuff. Your people, I think that meeting, the people who decided to quit sort of understood straight on that there was going to be no more playing your sister against you, you against your mom, and just playing the whole family relationship for their benefit. That was going to be, this is it, this is done. And you guys were victims of that a lot. Like it was a lot, and sometimes it's self-induced, but there was a lot of that in your company.
Yeah, I don't want to play the victim card too much. Like I don't want to say we were victims. I think we allowed it to happen. So you
You allowed
can't,
it to happen. Yes, yes,
so it's
yes,
like, yeah, and I hate to say this word, but as like an adult or a big boy, like I don't want to be the one to say that I was victimized by that. I think we allowed it to happen. Um, Again, it came back. It's funny. I don't. We got to get off this topic specifically because it's just one thing. But that vision, without that vision, like these people were
yes.
allowed to do that. We didn't know where we were going. And we didn't have metrics for people. We didn't use tools that would allow us to have those metrics for people. Um, we were basically um, handcuffed by the unknown and handcuffed by different things that we were scared to do. I think was a lot of that, and ask for things and stuff like that, which has become much, when we think about how this new company is structured, just in remuneration and things like that, how we deal with employees is like, bring value. And that comes back again, and you're gonna laugh because it's the second time in the last 5 minutes, but it comes back to
We don't know did.
that makes sense in everything I do. And I have to give a friend of mine credit for that because that he brought that up. But I think it's one of these things that we were at the mercy of these employees, and we did have a lot of things happen. We just didn't we weren't clear enough on ourselves to be able to sort of focus that group.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with the vision piece, but also I think in your company, I think, and maybe as well, you went through a bit of a journey with this. I think, and you might disagree with this, but I think initially you were guilty of, I call that the sort of cuddly bear management. Like you probably want it to be a little bit more sort of too liked by people in your company who are working with you, and being a nice boss and the supportive boss, and all that like stuff we hear all the time and stuff. And you probably on many occasions just miss simply what are your targets, what are you doing, and
Yeah.
baseline sort of things.
I think there's a journey that comes along with this as well. This whole thing's a journey. I agree with you on that. I still think you can be a nice person and an efficient boss. I think those are two different things. I think there's a piece there that I'd add to what you said, which is I had what I call the GSD or get shit done mentality, where I would, if I wanted it done, and this is something that I'm working on a lot right now, but if I wanted something done, I would do it myself because nobody could do it as well as I could. Mm. And that's something that I'm really working on now is how do I build this proper right team with the people around us again so that we get shit done, but it's not me doing it all the time. I don't know if you remember when we first started, basically 99% of things ended with me doing them at the end of
Yes,
it. And and
yes.
that wasn't sustainable or correct. There was no scalability on that. And something that I've really been trying to do is be clear. I comes back to what the vision is, but what, where do all these people, what are they supposed to be doing? And then teaching them how to do it properly. And that's something that I've been diving into much deeper recently.
Do you think you struggle to let go, or do you think simply the way things were just wasn't conducive for letting go to happen?
Both, both.
Uh,
I definitely struggle to let go. It's just with my assistant now, we talk about it all the time. I struggle to do that, and it's something that, I've told him that I need him to be very clear on when he's got things done to let me know because I struggle to walk away from things and just not knowing that they're fully being done. We call it the definition of done is like what is, and that's an interesting conversation. What is the definition of done, right? You get a whiteboard and you need to put it up. Is the definition of done getting the whiteboard or having it on the wall with some whiteboard markers with it? Like where does that fit, kind of thing. But I think that all of those things came into it. But I think I've tried to work on that and get the staff to have their own autonomy and the ability to do stuff themselves now.
yes, yes. So with the people as well, I remember when I came in, we didn't have any management structure, we didn't have any performance review or anything. And in fact, I think probably these were conversation you avoided to have.
I 100% agree.
Do you
Monthly,
think?
the idea of having a monthly meeting, it just never occurred to me.
Yes.
It was crazy, but something that, yeah, full credit to you for bringing that up.
There's something with this, that I have seen often is, I could be wrong, but I felt, especially with you, but also with many people I've worked with, is that once you knew there were alternative, you could recruit other people. I remember your mindset sort of shifted, and you started being a bit more like, hold on, let's have some performance review. Let's see, like your sales team, like what are the results and how many meetings are you having? And if you're not hitting your numbers, then we're going to find someone else because now we can.
Right.
Um, and,
There
and
was a
often I find this, yeah,
there was a huge
it,
aspect to that, right? Like employees, like we to find these employees back, years ago was so difficult that once you had them, you almost were like scared to let them go, and with that, scared to push them on things. Um, exactly what you said. Sorry, I just hijacked the question there a little bit, but once I found that there was an ability to go and find, and I've been very vocal to tell people this. Once I went and found the ability to through you to go and find people and find good people that can do a great job, then those performance reviews are much easier because there's a system there that we can make sure they're doing their job. If they're not doing their job, then they're not in the right seat. And if they're not in the right seat, then either we find them the right
that's
seat in the
it.
company or they don't hang around,
Yes, yes.
and
Um,
that's a huge change in leverage is not the right word, but it's a huge change in ability, I should say.
yes, yes.
Right.
Um, and then, so we started sorting this out. We had a lot of, well, there's a lot of people who left, let's just put it this way, and a lot of people who came in as well to replace them. And then at some sort, we were sort of like stabilized, but actually in the background, a lot of the issues that had been done in the past sort of had compounded probably already too much for things to be, I don't think we were able to, well, we were not able to save it. I don't think we could have done anything. I think that the damage
Yeah.
had been done too much.
It's funny. We could have saved it if the bank had allowed us
Yes.
the time.
Yes.
Our interim financials are strengthening. We were back on track. Like we were getting there. We just needed the time. We weren't given that. The process was working. We had
Mm-mm.
work to do. Now, funny enough, if I look back, if we would have kept on that path and looked at it today, where we would have been, I still think I'm further ahead now by having that hard break that went on. And when I mean hard break, losing the company, losing everything and having to restart, I'm further ahead with the new company now than I would have been if we would have had to just deal with all those problems out of that issue before.
So, from one day to another, remember, you lost all your stock, you lost all your system, all your employees, everything.
We were
But in a
kicked out.
way,
We were fired from our company. Sorry to,
you
yeah,
fired from your company. Yeah, you
yeah,
fired from your company.
yeah,
But in a way, you also lost all the problems you had accumulated in that
100%.
company. Yeah,
100%,
yeah.
100%, which is fascinating. And you said it to me, and others said it to me. Um, but when we were going through it, it's a hard one to understand. But they said this is the best thing that's ever happened to you.
Yeah.
You said it,
Oh, I
um,
saw that. Yes, 100%. Yes, yes.
and I couldn't see it at the time, if I'm honest,
Yeah,
um, because I was in it. I was at the bottom. I was like, head in the hands moments of what are we gonna do? I have four young kids, no income, no revenue, um, nothing, Uh, and then, but what do you do? Basically, I a couple things. I have a you can't see here, but up here on the wall, I told you this for my grandfather was in the Holocaust. Everything came to Canada. Like when I talk everything, he lost family members. He was lucky to survive the Holocaust. He came to Canada with nothing, couldn't even speak English. So joke, he was from France and he couldn't speak English. My grandma, who we met, couldn't speak French, and so somehow they figured that out. But he rebuilt the whole thing. And so from my perspective, I looked at it and said, listen, I'm in Canada. I have the ability to do this. I have all the things, all the tools. I know the business. I know, I have great relationships with tons of people. I can either sit here and cry about it or I can rebuild, and if he could do it, not even speaking the language, then nothing else. I can definitely do it. So that was the mentality is you sort of, we cried for a few days and then you, get up and go.
yeah. What you had, I think, I remember that. I remember you said that to me. That stuck with me a lot because it's something a lot of people don't have in your line of business. You had really deep relationship with your suppliers, and I remember you said, "I don't know why these idiots bought my company because my suppliers won't do business with them."
Nope. And they won't. They didn't. Well, they didn't. Every supplier that we had is I have this goes down to relationships. Sit with their like I personally sit in their countries with their families and have dinner. I know their, I can't say I know all their kids super well, but I know their kids, I know their families, I know their I've been to their houses. I don't, you can't replace those relationships, and sure enough, as soon as this happened, I called them all and I said, this was happening. And I said, please come with us. And all of them said, we're coming. Whatever you need, we're coming. And we're not working with them. And so from there, we basically scratched and clawed um, to get inventory. One of our great customers for 10 years turned their back on us. They had a new buyer. They turned their back on us right at the start. That one hurt a lot. We expected that
I
revenue.
remember. Yeah,
Um, that one hurt a lot. We're still working our way back in there and we will succeed. But we basically built this company back up with, again, that clear vision. Um, we know the product, we know the business, we know what works and what doesn't work. And then we've layered in great people that have been working like day and night to grow this thing with us, um, and made them compensated based on their success as well. So they all have their autonomy to, no, I shouldn't say autonomy. They all have their um, desire to build, because the more that they do well, the more they get, which is great as well.
And so that new company you rebuilt, you've done it 100% compression socks and diabetic socks, nothing else.
A little bit of foot cream, but yeah,
Yeah,
compression
foot cream.
diabetic
Yes,
socks.
yes, yeah, yeah. The foot
Yeah,
cream. Yeah.
touch of foot
And
cream. Yeah, but no, compression socks and diabetic socks. We are a health and wellness business. We're a direct to consumer with some wholesale, but we're the majority is we're a health and wellness brand, both for people with significant health issues and also people in the health and wellness prevention space as well.
mhm,
Um, that's people that essentially, if you have legs and you have circulation, we are a product for you. And
we're here.
again, we're here and we do a great job, and yeah, and people come back to us because they know the qualities there. We don't brand ourselves as the cheapest or the fastest, but we're the best at what we do.
So the interesting thing with this, and this is where I am dying to get the answer because I've never asked you, but you struggled to get your first company, which was exactly the same as you're doing now, past 1 million. And this one, you're already nearly at 2 million, going to 3
Over
in
two
2
million,
years.
over two
Yeah, yeah,
million, going
yeah.
to
You're over
three.
2 million. You're going to 3 in
Yep,
2 years.
yep.
Um, what do you think has changed for you to be able to do that
Yeah.
and basically break effortlessly the issues you had and never actually saw with this company in your 12 years of business initially?
I worked with you. I think if I'm honest, I don't want, I'm not trying to pump smoke or blow smoke or anything.
I'm not a marketer, so this isn't me who got you like sales
No,
channels and shit like this.
no, but it's not. But one of the things that you did, you helped me and were instrumental in, were the people that you helped me find. Okay. And so with the people came the structure. With the structure came the ability to, we don't, for instance, we don't have an office anymore. We have a small office that we have, but we don't have a true office anymore. So what that meant was everything needs to be virtual. And so to build a virtual team, we had to put in proper tools and metrics and all those types of things to allow us to do that. But what that did was it allowed us to have those tools and metrics for everything, for our customer service people, for our admin people, for our sales people, for our tech people. Like, all of those people use the same tools that allow us to be laser focused and also sort of quantify what they're doing. So to answer the question of how we did it, number one were the people. Number two are the relationships. So I can't say that, like, in the previous company, we had no relationships. So we had to go find those relationships to start to get, and those are long leads. A lot, like, just like the suppliers, 90% outside of that one customer, 90% of our customers came with me as well because I know them as well. Right. Like, the relationships sat very, very deeply with me. And so I was able to take those relationships, bring them over here. We understood who our customer was. We understood where that customer was and how we could go get to them. And we really built the business. And we didn't mess around with the accoutrement of things when we were like, these are our growth engines. This is our focus. Let's go get those. And if it didn't come into that mind map, it's just not being done. You know, one of the conversations was, do we do another um, kind of in the foot cream realm? Do we do something else there as well? And the conversation was, the big part of our business is still the hosiery, the compression socks and diabetic socks. And so why are we even bothering spending time and money on R&D and stuff like that? If we don't need to go wider, we need to go deeper on getting, in front of more people to grow the business.
I think that's what's changed. But personally, and I could be wrong, but my assessment on you and your journey is that because we had in these last 2 years, we had multiple conversations together where you brought ideas because we sort of have developed this relationship now where we have a chat and you bring ideas you have for your business and I sort of question you and I've definitely noticed now I don't need to question you too much. It's like, the foot cream I remember and I remember asking you, how much time is it going to take you to develop it? And compare with spending time doing what you're currently doing, but breaking through the barriers you have. What's the leverage really? And then you quickly thought, like, oh, yeah, obviously, if I could break these barriers, I would just maximize my time and I would make so much more impact on the company.
100%.
And yeah, and my feeling is definitely this: is that you've now gotten the sort of not discipline, but mindset of, what are the actual problem that are hard to solve, but if I crack them, it goes hockey stick kind of thing.
Exponential. And one of the things that I've identified about myself, and this comes back to that conversation specifically, is I'm a I'm a true entrepreneur in my heart, in my head. And so I'm always looking at things like,
Yeah.
my wife thinks it's hilarious because, 100 ideas a day come at her and she bats them all down. And that's similar to conversation with you. And one of the things I think in the old company too is I was always trying, like you mentioned, again, not having that clear vision. You're always trying to look for the next thing that's going to be a revenue stream or an opportunity. And here I really, again, question everything that we try to bring, all the ideas that come forward. The ideas still come, but is it going to drive us? Is it going to create that sort of lift to the vision and to the three growth engines that we have? And if it's not, then we put it away, and maybe we
Mhm.
do it later, but we put it away. And so that focus and discipline for sure is the word, um, is a big part of it as well.
Do you think, because one thing that has clearly changed for you between when you had the previous company and when you have your company right now is, and I've noticed this in our discussion, that obviously your children have grown up a bit and you've been able to share a lot of your passion with hockey with your kids, because now they're starting to play hockey and stuff. And I feel, I could be wrong, but I feel like you spend a lot more time with your family and you value that time, probably because you come out of, the sort of young children who cry a lot and want mommy instead of wanting daddy, and you don't, and that has actually, in a way, I believe, probably focused you as well on your business. You can't just piece about and go and find some new product or embark on a new idea and whatever, because you want to go to hockey now.
Right. You,
Does that resonate, that stuff?
yeah, 100% it does. And that's, again, we were trying to grow a big business before, and now we're trying to grow a smart business, and that allows me to, if I did my kid as hockey, one of my kids at hockey at 4 o'clock yesterday, I was able to take him, and that's a great ability to do it. And if you think of like, bigger is not always better, for sure. So, smarter is better, profitable is better. Creating a brand and a product that are going to make people feel good is what we try to do every day. And that to me, then the secondary part to that is I get to spend more time with my family and stuff and focus on what needs to be done there, which is important. It's funny, actually, you mentioned hockey there. And one thing I can say just through sports of growing up is that the adversity of playing sports was one of the other things. I mentioned my grandfather before, but one of the other things was playing sports, and the adversity that I learned through that was a massive thing for me going through this adversity. And this really felt like a catastrophic injury that I had to figure a way past to get back to playing. And that was really a lot of the mindset that I had too as I went through. And then once you get back there, how do you keep it focused to really to do, have the most impact? Kind of
Yes.
thing.
Yes.
So it's been a journey. All I can say is a journey. Is the word journey is really the big one for me.
It is, isn't it? And so this year and next year, what do you see? We can probably finish the episode with that. So
So yeah,
what's what's the future for Dr. Johnny's then?
yeah. We're going to continue growing exactly the growth engines that we have going. Um, we're going to keep our people tight. We think that we're, with the people that we have here and with the structure that we have in place, we could probably grow. Um, I think we can grow to 15 million with maybe not even one more person or maybe one more person, and really keep this company really tight and efficient, and just keep growing. And I think that we know that our product line is great. We know that what we're doing is great. Now we just need that time, that consistency, that development of those things and nurturing, to help everybody grow in the company so that we continue to that growth goal.
How do you keep yourself in check for not going on the next big idea and getting crazy about?
Yeah. Structure in my day. I work out pretty much every day now.
Yeah.
I make sure that I get things done. My calendar is blocked, and then so one of the things with my assistant, every Monday we go through the calendar and block time for things. And so if you block time for things, you can't. And if you try to honor the calendar, you can't, you know, go out of that into that squirrel too much.
Yes.
And so that's you stay focused. Again, we know where we want to go. We know what we're doing here. Now it's a matter of how do we refine it to become more efficient and just keep growing.
Brandon, thank you very much for going on the pod. I think your lessons were, I think definitely, especially on the family business side, invaluable for a lot of people who struggle with that, because family business isn't always easy, to be honest. Uh,
Probably harder than regular business.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So thank you for being so honest and open about all this. And good luck, Dr. Johnny's.
yeah. No, thank you. It's gonna be fun.